Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to those of you joining us here in person, to those of you joining us online for the live stream, and to those of you who are watching this recording after the event. I am Frank Place. I'm the Director of the Policies, Institutions, and Markets Program based here at IFPRI. I am delighted to welcome you to this seminar on building resilience through financial inclusion, a review of existing evidence and knowledge gaps. This seminar will discuss effective strategies for building resilience through financial inclusion and make a call for more research on this urgent challenge. A good place for my opening remarks to start is to talk about what is resilience. If you look it up in the dictionary, a very simple definition is the ability to recover from or adjust easily to major changes, which we usually think of as major ones in terms of resilience, and usually ones with the connotation of misfortune. Some colleagues of ours, Barrett and Constas, also tried to posit a definition of development resilience, which they say is the capacity over time of a person, household, or other aggregate unit to avoid poverty in the face of various stressors and in the wake of myriad shocks. Why is resilience important? Well, although we're making a lot of progress globally on moving people out of poverty, each year millions of people fall into poverty. And it's often because of some of these shocks: climate shocks, conflict shocks, health shocks, other economic shocks. So it's a very important topic. And you'll soon hear from the speaker and the panelists that resilience is more than coping, which was inferred by the definitions. And a couple other concepts are very important. They'll introduce some of them, but I'd like to introduce two to you now, two other dimensions of resilience. One is exposure to shocks, and another is sensitivity to shocks. So exposure, as it sounds like, is the probability that you're going to experience a certain shock or risk. And that can be mitigated by actions that you can take simply by living in a place that's perhaps less prone to those shocks. So if you're living on top of a hill, you're at a high altitude, you're less prone to flooding, for example. If you have vaccinations, you're less prone to certain health-related shocks. So sensitivity is a related concept, but that for sensitivity, what that means is that if you are exposed to the shock, how severe is that shock on you or your group or your community? How much do you suffer? And that also can be mitigated by certain actions that you take. So for example, if you're a community and you're exposed to high rainfall, as are other communities in your area, but you've taken action to perhaps invest in conservation structures and other vegetative covers, you're less prone to suffer drastic consequences from that rainfall. So within our PIM program, we undertake quite a bit of research that's around resilience. So I'll give you three examples. One is that we do work around we do work around foresight modeling, which takes as inputs the results from climate scenarios based out to 2050 and beyond. We look at those implications for agriculture production and a number of other outcomes. And the work around that is to try to prepare us to adapt to those climate futures so that we can reduce our global sensitivity in agriculture to those climate shocks. Another area is we do work around social protection research. There we do research around mechanisms and modalities of social protection programs, again, to achieve intended outcomes that they have, whether nutrition, consumption, other types of outcomes. And that one is largely around building the capacity of households and individuals to cope with changes in their lives, but also if it's paired with other kinds of interventions to help build assets, it also can help to reduce sensitivity to shocks. And a final one I would mention is that we work on natural resource governance, and there we help strengthen the management of resources such as forests, trees, water, rangelands, wetlands, and by doing so we help communities both to reduce exposure to some risks like outbreaks of pests and diseases, but also to reduce their sensitivity to risk and improve their ability to cope with risks. So those are some three examples that we have in our portfolio, in addition to the topic of today. So we do have some research going on financial inclusion. To date, we've focused that around agriculture insurance, which it's led by Berber, and you'll hear from her in a moment. But we're very excited about that area of research because we also feel that insurance itself and other financial tools, products can really make a big inroad to reducing exposure, reducing sensitivity, and improving coping mechanisms for the poor. And so with those few remarks, and I'm right on time, I will hand it over now to our moderator, I think, who will introduce the first speaker. Thank you very much.